Okay, I'm still modeling, doing this thing. I had this little boy. I'm doing shows. I'm sponsoring. I'm out there doing pool parties. All the when I modeled everything. I'm in the barbershop one day with my little boy, and they, of course, at the barbershop show all the stuff that's going on in town. I see my body go across the TV screen with a back out strip, bikini. And I was like, okay, do this anymore because I can't let my boy see this happening. So, and I have to put everything into him to make him be better than I was.
Welcome back to the Too Stubborn to Fail podcast. I am your host, Darren Perkins, and today's episode, man, super special. We actually got the inspiration for a lot of the things, not only that I do, but who I have become as a person. Kind of the inspiration behind the man, behind the brand, if you will. Very special woman to me. I'm blessed and fortunate to have her close to me now. Was about an hour away, but now she's basically in my backyard. Without further ado, the lovely Angela Perkins. How you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. What I didn't mention is that you're my mom. Most important part of the whole process. I'm grateful to have you on, and it just made sense that everybody else got their interview. It was just about that time. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, kind of talk about how it was growing up in New York.
Yes.
How was it growing up in New York?
Well, I was in New York until I was 7 years old. Just me and my mom, family. I was the little princess of the family. And then my father worked in Washington and came back and forth. And then he came home one day and they got pregnant. That was all new to me. What does that mean? And I was the only child, the only niece, the only grandchild, the only everything. And then here comes this baby. And then we moved to Maryland. That was a devastating thing for me because I was in private school. I went to school with a bunch of rich kids. I came to Maryland. Everybody was country. I didn't know what they were talking about. The teacher told my mother she won't speak to anybody. I didn't understand what they were saying. The lingo was different. The dialogue was different. And but New York was great. It was an open thing where you could do and be whatever. I mean, it was a great big city, and then I moved to the sticks of Maryland. That was kind of hard to handle.
But I'm sure eventually you were able to find some things that you like. You got a little bit older. Did you feel like you ever really acclimated to the DMV area?
No. That was your story. This is I always felt bigger than where I was. I always felt like I was supposed to be something else other than the country. Because we moved, my father bought a shed, I thought, for a house. And we stayed there about a year. But everybody on the street was poorer than we were. There weren't mother and father situations. We had 2 cars. I had different outfits every day. And one day, funny story, it might be funny to you all, but it wasn't funny to me. For some reason, the whole street went to one school. The 2 houses on the end of the street were bused to another school. I went to this other school, and the other poor kids on the street, they got out of school earlier than I did. So they would wait for me with knives and scissors to cut my hair and to cut my clothes. Okay, so I had to come past this mob of kids with dogs and get home every day.
Wow.
Yeah, so one day I jumped through the screen door because they almost caught me.
You didn't have time to stop.
I didn't have time to stop. And a white lady that was on the corner called my mom and said, look, something's going on. You got to do something. But I've always been different, and they didn't even, people never gave me a chance because I wore the clothes. I had to walk. I was smart, and it just wasn't. I never did get acclimated to Maryland.
No.
It was just different.
I never knew that.
It was a different feeling, different aspect. But I always felt like I was supposed to be different. I was modeling at that age, doing little things at the church. But as we get on, you'll find out a little bit more about me. But I just always felt greater.
How did you cope with feeling kind of ostracized?
I did not talk.
Mm-hmm.
I was an introvert, very angry, because I couldn't understand why we had to make the transition to move.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to my mom, she didn't want to have 2 children and not have her husband, so she went with her husband. I could not get my mind around being like that, and I had always been special and different and involved in stuff, and now I was around a bunch of things that did not accept me for who I was. I was just different. I always have been different. I always wanted more.
It had to be tough.
Yeah.
So with you always feeling as though you were too big for your surroundings, I know you said that you stayed to yourself a lot, and maybe that's where I get a lot of it from too. Not for the same reasons, but I always felt as though I was more reserved, and I mean, not felt, I was actually, well, to this day, I'm still more reserved in instances. More so back when I was in school, everybody knew me for being quiet. A lot of that had to do with just not wanting to say anything. That's what it comes down to. But now I'm getting out of that, which is one of the main reasons why I started this podcast, is to stretch me. Now I'm talking every weekend, or just having different conversations, getting more comfortable with communicating with people. Is huge. What do you, did you have any, I guess, representations of business owners early?
In my family, I'm from a social work background.
Mm-hmm.
But my uncles, my father was a contractor. Mm-hmm. And he owned his own business. Right. Even though I didn't care for him too much, but he still owned his own business. Right. And my uncles, even though they were in the corporate world, they were social workers, they were DJs. Mm-hmm. And then we had a record shop. And I was at 9 years old going back to New York. School was over on Friday. I went to New York Saturday, stayed for the summer. I did the ordering of the records and making sure everything was done. I learned how to do cash register. I started at 9 years old. So that kind of gave me the little entrepreneurial spirit to own your own and to be your own boss. Mm-hmm. Because I just didn't like what the world was showing me, and I didn't want to fit into the world. So that just kind of started me out.
Okay. So after that point, we get to, I guess, let's go to college. What was your college experience like?
Well, not to cut you off from there, go back to 14 years old, I started modeling professional. Mm-hmm. And I modeled for 14 years. And I did shows everywhere, went everywhere. And that's when I found out racism was real. Mm-hmm. I was in Miami when I first went to college. I went down there and I went to a job on a yacht, and the lady looked at me and said, "You don't have blonde eyes. Blonde eyes and blue hair." Mm-hmm. I said, "Well, good thing, because I probably would scare you to death." But that's when racism hit. Uh-huh. That you have a minority thing going on here double. You're a black woman, mm-hmm. and that can be a difficult thing. Mm-hmm. And then fast forward, that was the college years. Mm-hmm. Okay, I didn't want to go to college because I was in a household of abuse. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to take care of my mother. I'm out of school now. I can work and get away from my dad. No, that's not an option in our family. You have a choice. You go voluntarily or involuntarily, mm-hmm. and that's what you do. So I got my degree in fashion design. And of course, I was modeling. And then I got through that, and my family was mad at me because they said, "You're smarter than that." And I'm like, I don't want to go. I want to do to help my mother to get my mother away. But they said, no, work on you. Oh, okay, you're young. You don't get that. And I decided when I got out of that, you have a degree in merchandising. Well, what's that going to do for you? So then I went to I got a business degree. And then I went into social work. Got a degree in social work. I worked for the DC government, and I was one of the social workers that was showcased on the front of the Washington Post when they went from welfare to work, and my career shot up. Still wasn't happy. Still wasn't at a place where it fit. And I had this little boy that I wanted to show the world to and wanted him to be everything. So at that point, I started another business, a business. I don't know whether you remember, God, it was where I did the entertainment thing, where artists would come into town, and what we would do, we didn't want them to have the stardom vision all the time. We wanted them to have down home. We would take them out, feed them, home cooking, and take them around town, so they didn't have to be stars all the time. And Bizarre Productions, that was the name of it, and that was going really well. But I didn't have the capital, and I didn't really realize what I needed to do because Levert came into town and he offered us his job, his concert. $37,000. $37,000 was like, oh, where am I gonna get that from? And nobody would, put the money up. Yeah. But Lorette gave that show to me because of talking and nice relationships and things like that. That's what got me there. And then I had this little boy. Okay, I'm still modeling, doing this thing. I had this little boy. I'm doing shows. I'm sponsoring. I'm out there doing pool parties. All the, when I modeled everything. I'm in the barbershop one day with my little boy. And they, of course, at the barbershop show all the stuff that's going on in town. I see my body go across the TV screen with a back out strip, bikini. And I was like, okay, do this anymore because I can't let my boy see this happening. So, and I have to put everything into him to make him be better than I was. And I think you probably have heard this saying, I want his floor to be my ceiling. So, and I want it more for you. So, and one of the major things, because I did not understand so much stuff and didn't have the support of my dad, I wanted so much for you that I put everything in you. I talked to you. No matter what it was, I didn't know how to do this right, that right, the other right, but I explained to you, this is the goal. Okay, we want a Mercedes there. I gotta work. I don't know how to budget. And you would go and do it, and we talked. We talked about everything, and that's where I did a lot of things. But I tried. I didn't give up. I never gave up on anything.
How did having this little boy, which is me, how did that change you?
I was because I had, and I don't want to get too much into that, an alcoholic parent that was very, very abusive mentally as well as physically. I wanted the best for you, and I wanted to be the best that I could be for you. I put everything into you. I wanted you to be that guy that I wanted in my life. So the sky was the limit. I put in, and my gift, I believe, is encouragement, because I never let anything go with you. I was there with you. I supported you, even though you all probably, I don't know if you've seen he's on the podcast about his dad. His dad was incarcerated, but we all had a beautiful relationship. But I had to put everything into you. But in the middle of all of that, I got sick. My liver malfunctioned. They didn't expect me to live. I didn't know how to process that, but my thought was always on you. What do I do to make his life better. I had set up all these college funds and all this money. I heard you talk about the things that you do to promote your children. You had a college fund. You had CDs. When I got sick, I had to use that money so that we could live.
Right.
But I talked to you about it. All right, this is what we have to do. You gotta be the best that you can be, so that, because I don't know if I'm even going to be here. We even set you down and prepared you to be without your mother. It didn't happen. You see him here, but that was in 2003 when they said to me that I'd never live past. That was November, my birthday. They said I'd never see it till Christmas. But my thing was, I can't get into despair. I still have to raise him no matter what. I cannot give up.
I actually do want to talk about that a little bit, because that probably was the most difficult part of my entire life. I forget the year, but I was in the 7th grade, and we had just moved to Laurel, Maryland, Briarwood, and it was different. It was just you and I. It got you, like you said, you got sick, and it forced me to. I think I started to become independent in that moment, because instead of you being able to take me back and forth to school, I would catch a cab, and I was in a private school still, but that was a difficult time in that. I didn't know fully what was going to go on with you. They did tell me that I would lose you, and at that age, I don't know how you process that. I don't know what would have, how that moment would have played out had I lost you at that age. It would have been devastating, obviously, but I don't know how. It's hard to foresee me like just overcoming that, because we are so close. At the time, our relationship has never been bad. We were so close. I don't know where I would be if I had lost you that early on.
At that moment, it was I was not processing things too well, because I cared and I wanted so much for you, and you had to become a man then. Mm-hmm. You took care of me. I had been going to law school, got my degree in law, and I was working full time and taking care of you by myself, and I didn't know how to process it, but at that point, you had to put on your big boy jaw and you became the man. You actually carried me from my bedroom, I'll never forget it, on the comforter. You would drag me to the bathroom, wash my face, take me to the sofa, sit me up on the sofa and feed me the best that you could before you got in the cab and went to school. And you did that for 4 days. And then you looked at me on the last day and you said, Mom, you're not getting better. You need to go to the hospital. And I went to the hospital, and that's when we found out all the other stuff. I just thought I was tired. But in that moment, you became 100% man. You took over taking yourself to school, you bring stuff home, you had the cab drivers go, and it was amazing. My mom came up when I was in the hospital, and we found out so much that the cab company was getting ready to have you picked up by DSS, because they thought that the voice on the phone was you calling. You were taking, they had never seen an adult, but the voice was me very sick. And they could not process it. I mean, and the man said it was funny that you would pay them on Monday, and you would say to them, if somebody said Thursday, well, Darren, no, I paid y'all Monday. I ain't giving y'all no more of my money. You have to keep that, and they tip you, but you. My point of all of this is you became a man then, and I never knew how that felt to you, but we were so close. It was nothing that I didn't talk to you about, nothing that I tell you, but that problem, and to leave you, love my mother dearly, to leave you there, I didn't know how to, but all I wanted every day, I saw you stepping up and doing what you had to do to move on. And you never was a person to ask for anything or want anything. You didn't desire anything. I just gave you everything because I wanted you to have it. But you weren't that child. You became a man early.
Yeah. Yep. And obviously, when it did get to that point of you having to be hospitalized, that was very scary. It gotten, like you said, your liver malfunction. That was the first time I found out what jaundice was. Just seeing you in that state, it was tough. It was. And then when we made the transition to South Carolina, which was huge. That was a huge culture shock for me. One, being in private school pretty much my whole life up until that point. And then coming from the DMV to the South, not knowing any customs, not being able to understand. And that led to me being more reserved as well, because I just didn't know what people were saying. I didn't want to sound like I was stupid. I really just didn't know what you were talking about.
Right.
So that led to me being quiet early on as well. Just what could you speak to? I know we never really got to have this conversation, so we're having it now. What were your feelings when we had to move to South Carolina? Were you still in survival mode, or were you in a place where you felt as though things were looking up?
Yeah, full disclosure, I was hijacked. Okay, I was getting ready to have another surgery because during that time they said she can't even go on the liver donor list because we can't open her up, because if we open her up, it'll kill her. And at that point, my gallbladder had given out. Organs were starting to deteriorate one at a time. And I had to have a surgery. So I brought you to my mom just for a moment while I recovered from a surgery. I came back to get my child, and she had registered you for school. And I didn't know how to process that. I couldn't even see you. And I should have called the authorities then, because I don't know how you register a kid at school with no paperwork, but my mother is, hey that's my mother. But that's also my mother. And I decided, okay, if this is where he is, I gotta go. Even though I put our things in storage, it took me 3 years to make that complete transition, because South Carolina, I used to joke with my family, and they said, when are you ever gonna come to live South? Not unless I get sick. So when I did come and I was sick, they all was like, "Oh, you here and you must be sick." And then I told the story and everybody's crying. But full disclosure, when I came to South Carolina, they did not expect me to. I mean, they were literally carrying me from one place to another, on the porch, on this place, this place, because I could not function. I could not do. And my dad, that really had never taken much to do in my life, was feeding me the syrup off of the greens every day. And this was almost Christmas, and everybody, I'm the jokester of the family, the one that keeps everything going, and I finally walked Christmas Day. And with that being said, it was kind of hard to think every day I lived, is this my last? So every day, my hope and my dream was that you were comfortable and you were happy. And you and I talked about everything, but it's amazing that this conversation we never had. I never knew how you actually felt, or, if you want to go back. But because of financial things and, money changed, I no longer could retire the way I was. I had just gotten a job, law firm, $85,000. All of that went away with that hospital visit. And I just didn't know what to do, but I had to make sure you were all right, and you being all right was being when my mother could take care of us.
Well, I never, in that moment, for me, it was more so, I've always been a go with the flow type of person. It wasn't as though I wasn't leaving much behind. because, I had family. But in that moment, it wasn't about me. It really was about, am I going to have a mom? So.
And then that was going on in your head, and what's going on in my head was the best for you. What? Even though I know you've always been a go with the flow type of person, but I always want more for you, more than that go with the flow that you had. If you said I want some Nikes, I said you had to have Jordan. I mean, that's just how I've always been. So then I couldn't provide you with what you always had, regardless of your standard. My standard was always higher and wanted you to have more. So that was turmoil. Sitting there thinking, I can't do it for myself. I can't even think past tomorrow. Every minute that I wake up, thank God. So I moved into the room with you, and I stayed as close to you as I possibly could for as long as I could. And then after that, they diagnosed me with another thing. I had made it through the death, but I got muscular sclerosis.
Different bag.
Had to deal with that. Okay, how do you at this point process all of these things that's happening?
So you never got a chance to process survival?
I had to always be in survival mode. Well, not really in survival mode is, okay, Lord, I made it to this point here. I'm comfortable right here. I want to see Darren better and make sure he gets everything. But am I going to see the next day? So every day I had to live it to the fullest to make sure that what you remembered of me was great. I didn't, even with me being the way that I was, I tried to support anything and everything that you did. Never giving up. I never mentally gave up. I said, if this is what God has for me, I have to accept it. I did do that. But I never gave up. I always wanted to make sure that I saw you in a position where you could always jump and jump that hurdle and leap that mountain and take over, whatever it was, because you were always great to me. And I always saw a whole lot in you, and I always wanted a whole lot for you. But I never got the moment just to sit down and process, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. But if I'm not, he got to be ready. But we never had that conversation.
But I don't ever think I would have been. I don't know how you would have prepared me for that. But thankfully, we moved past that, and like you said, we had another obstacle of MS. But even with that gloomy diagnosis, it wasn't death, so we knew that we were going to make it through. It was pretty scary seeing the worst of MS. Could you kind of talk about what that was like, just thinking that you could possibly, end up as the worst case scenario?
Okay, I kept falling. I had fallen all of my life. And with me mounting the way, I would tear the wrong way up, come down, fall. And people would say, would you stop drinking so much? And I wasn't drinking. Because of the dynamics of the family. My dad, I couldn't do that much because I didn't want to become what he had become. And I tried very hard to kind of, first of all, process the fact that, hey, I'm not white. Only white people get MS. You go on what you have seen. And they said, you have a typical case of MS. I was diagnosed in 06. And they said by 07, you'll be in a wheelchair. That's just what your medical records show. Okay, now how do I process this? I came through the death threat. I made it through that. So right now, how do I deal with, you know what? I don't care. However God sees this to be, I just want to be cute through it all. So if I'm in a wheelchair, so be it. If I get upset and allow worry to get on this, I went to all the self-help groups and all the things that the MS had to offer, and I found out your mindset really is very important. It's important that you believe the best, regardless of what the situation looks like. So, as you know, I have been in a situation where I couldn't walk, and they said, "You got to fit her for a wheelchair." I said, "Ain't ready for that. Wheelchairs aren't cute. I'm cute. I can't have a wheelchair. When y'all start making wheelchairs cute, I'll decide that's where I want to be. But if I am, that's the way God intended it to be. He's going to take care of me." Then I went blind. Not blind to see foggy, not blind to see gray, complete black. How do you process that? Well, these people that I call my sisters better dress me the way that I've been dressing, because that's what, how am I to process this with my son? He's watching all of this happen. I gotta be strong no matter what, because he's got to see strength in the worst of everything. He's got to have faith in the worst. And right now, I'm his friend, because I moved him to the backwoods of South Carolina, to the small mind mentality place where people just don't have any encouragement. I gotta be the strength for him. So I can't let these things get me down. So then, with that said, I never really got wheelchair, but I did walker, I did cane, and I was led around by my son, and you take very good care of me. I always wanted to commend you for that. You do a very good job. But you've always taken care of me, and I'll never forget one day, the last time I was in the hospital, maybe not the last, one of the times I was in the hospital, and I was not seeing well, and they was talking about me not being able to walk, and I said, I put so much stuff into everything, I give up. I can't do this anymore. And my sister called you FaceTime, and she explained to you what was going on. She was crying, and you said, let me see, let me talk to my mom. And on the FaceTime, you looked at me and said, "If you don't get up, I'm going to kick your ass." And when you said that, that let me know what I had done. That let me know what I had given you. But you were always my strength and my support. But you gave me, you can do this. Because, you don't have to give up. Because Darren is going to be fine. He's taking care of you, as always. But you gave me the strength to go that extra mile again. And I laughed through it. And I was able to turn it around. But that was the first time and the only time that I just said, I can't do this anymore. I'm strong enough anymore. But I drew my strength from you. When you told me, if you don't get up, I'm going to kick your ass. But it wasn't easy. And then Union, being small, the town, I never could function in Union. And then you gave me another miracle. You gave me a granddaughter. And then you said, "Mom, would you come and help us with Layla?" When I left Union, I haven't been, you can say, I haven't been sick.
No.
Not one day since. I mean, have a little ache, have pain, have a little something every now and then. But one thing I want to let everybody hear and see, never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up. You can't tell your story to somebody or your wishes to somebody else and expect them to be happy with it. Only because that ain't their dream. That's not their goal. They can't feed into it. They can't like it. They can't love it. They can't do it unless they love you. They can't, because it's yours.
Right.
So you have to nurture it. You have to perfect it. It's going to go wrong. Things are going to go bad. It's always darkest before the dawn. Don't give up. I have been at the point, like I said, of death. I have been where they said, it's no way you're going to walk again. Legs stiff, cold.
And how do you follow that up? Yeah, it was tough. Just never got your perspective on it. But just to backtrack a little bit before the move to Columbia, and even before I moved out of Union, how was it like to from your perspective to see me just continue to one, still do well in school and eventually graduate from high school?
It was amazing to me because of the card that you were dealt. I mean, you never really had, your dad was incarcerated early and you didn't have a role model. My father was an alcoholic. You were always self-driven. And I always talk to you about everything. Talk, I got into an argument with coworkers because I would say, I'm getting ready to make this decision, so I gotta go home. Darren and I have to go out to dinner and talk. He's a kid. Why would you talk to? Because I need to know how he processes things. I mean, I need to, for him, because he helps me. Mom, that doesn't make sense. Or, Mom, let's do it this way. I had to give you everything I didn't think that I had because you didn't talk and I didn't talk. But guess what we did do? We talked to each other. I didn't talk to other people because I didn't trust anybody. The only person in my world that I trusted ever was you. And I always thought that communication was the basis of it. So you and I, that was my everything. So I had to remain steadfast and immovable in whatever I did. I put more into you than I even put into myself. Even when I thought life was over for me, I wanted to be able to process the fact that this child has to be able to be strong. If I do close my eyes tomorrow, I believe he's going to be okay. Because I gave you everything that I could. And I'm not talking about monetarily. I'm talking about mentally, physically. I tried to give you everything just in case. But at that point, how do you process, I'm not going to be here? How do you process, I'm leaving him, to me, with a family that was, I mean, they were good, loving people. But I wanted to raise you. I wanted to see you through. And when you did accomplish every goal, whatever goal I set, you hit that ball out of the park. I expected you to graduate, and every time you graduated with honor. When you graduated from high school, I didn't think you were going to be able to walk down the aisle because of all those things you had around. But you always superseded everything, and those moments were wonderful. As you tell, I had a party every time we had, even though you weren't that type of person. But you've always superseded my wildest imagination. But you were everything that I've always wanted.
That's big. But to see after high school, obviously, even I decided to do my first 2 years of college, still local. But how was it when I left? Like, what was?
Can I tell you how I felt about you? I felt that you went to school, went to college in Union, which I never understood in the beginning, but because of me, because I was sick, because you were the one giving me my shot, because you were taking care of me, and I felt like I got to do better so he can go on. I mean, you had a 4.17. You could do anything you wanted to. Union was too small for you. And I needed you to move and do, but I needed not to be handicapped because you weren't going to walk away from me like that. And that's what I had to mentally get my mind wrapped around the fact that I'm going to be better because I got to give him that push because he's great. Even though once I did that, you never came back again. But when you went away, you left at 19, you never turned around. But I mean, Union, I got into an argument with a counselor about you. I went to the school your first day of the 11th grade year, and I asked for the listing of all of the different tests that you had to take. ACT, SAT, or anything that you had. And of course, Union is still a little racial. A white counselor said to me, "How did you know that he wants to go to school?" And she's typing. And I said, "Ma'am, stop." "What do you mean stop? Stop and turn around and look at me." I said, "He has a choice, voluntarily or involuntarily. But he will not work in a mill. He will not be subject to life based on other people's terms. I want him to have his own say in his own life. And then by that time, the great point Andrews had popped up and she was, but still, don't tell me what he's not going to do.
Yeah, that yeah, that did have a lot to do with why I stayed. But you know, like you said, you did get better enough for me to go away, even though it was just an hour.
That didn't mean for you to not come back. Okay.
But in that, you know, as I began to create a life for me here in Colombia, there was a bit of a decline in health, I would say. In and out of the hospital. It was rough on me because I wasn't able to be what I was at one time for you. Being an hour away, I still, as much as I could, you know, took you here and there, but I couldn't be that everyday attendant that I was in the past.
Well, initially, I still had to take the shot, and then I started going for an infusion. And anybody, even you, I think I could smack you for thinking that you never did the best that you could do at all times. I haven't been to, but off the top of my head, maybe 3 infusions that you haven't been there. I have not been at any point where you didn't, if you weren't able to come, did not make the time to talk. And no matter how long I talk or how short or whatever, you're there. It's no way you could have done anything different. And when you got married, full disclosure, that was like the worst day of my life because I know the Bible. I know that when you leave your mom, your parents, you have to feed your wife. And there was some other woman in your life, and I just couldn't process it. But you picked a helpmeet. You picked the best that you could have picked, but my mind could get wrapped around that because I was losing my everything. And then I thought, why are you putting so much weight on this kid? He can't be everything. To you, he's got to have a life. And then you were doing things by leaps and bounds, but everything that you got involved in with a now, who did you grab? Come on, mom, let's go. And I appreciate that because a lot of kids don't even still acknowledge the fact that their parent ain't their parent. You've never been disrespectful. You've never left me out of anything. You always, you and I still to this day have a great relationship where I don't have to worry. Like yesterday, you were supposed to come at 10 and you weren't here and I didn't talk. I was crazy because you're always on time. You're always when you say something, it's done. And that's just a joke, but I'm just saying I can always count on you, and that hasn't changed because you got married. Right. That has increased because you got married. Because I believe she feels maybe not in the same, but down the road, the same way about me because I think there's nothing that she won't do for me too, which is amazing. But you and your wife have shown me something that I never knew. You showed me love. My heart was closed down because I had a terrible parent. I had a terrible family. My father's family. They made comments about my color. I wasn't light enough to belong to my dad. I dealt with a lot of stuff that you know about. And my love component was shut down, but I gave you that love. I gave you what I had, but I didn't have that to give to other people. And then I got a calling to the church to minister, and I was like, I'm not doing that. That means you got to care about people. And I'm not, nobody cared about us when we were running the street at night and, running from my dad. But to full disclosure, my dad gave me what not to be in life. My dad was authentically who he was. He didn't pull any punches. He always told us, be the best that you could be. Now, you might not like this, but if you're gonna be a hoe, be the best. But I mean, but he wasn't a daddy. I mean, I didn't have that type of love. And when I met your father, I got that from your father. Now, when your father was taken away, the thing that I remember mostly when he left, he said, "This is not an arrest. This is a rescue. My life needs to be rescued." And we have drawn off of each other because we are still the best of friends to this day. And we've had some downs, but for the most part, we are very good friends. And he's so proud of you. Even though a lot of people I don't know, you have two siblings. I have two step children. You're three, two, Brandy and Delonte, which are his children, but they are beautiful children, and you guys are amazing. But life has taken its turns and twists, and you just got to play your hand the best way you can. You can't let it go, or let go of what is, because everything's not gonna be good, as we have talked about today. My life is taken because I was supposed to be the top litigator in DC. I was on my way to that. I had 11 cases during my trial, and I won. No, I had 12. I won 11 because one of them I refused to take because the guy was definitely guilty. So, but I'm just saying, but that's not what God had. And anything that is difficult for you to do, difficult to you being, God is not going to give you the equipment. But if you go into whatever avenue of your life, entrepreneurship or whatever you go, and it becomes easy, God has His grace. Being an encourager, helping people out, I'm good at that. I'm good at, I don't know how good I am at taking care of my granddaughter because she's very supportive, but I try very hard. But you be good at things that come easy to you, you be good at, but I'm not just saying everything's going to be great. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. I'm just going to be saying doors and opportunities will open when you're going in the right direction.
You said a mouthful there. Thank you for that. That was inspiring. Epitomize what Too Stubborn to Fail is. But before we leave, I have to highlight your brand. What does 100% royalty mean to you?
Well, it's important to me for you as the viewers to feel comfortable about yourself, to be confident in yourself. 100% royalty. I don't know if you are aware of the fact that we are royal people. We were born into royalty. And you have to feel good about who else is going to make you feel good. I mean, people tell you stuff for the day to get something from you, to make you feel good. But if you don't have that feeling on the inside, what good is it? So 100% royalty means exactly what it said. You're 100% royalty. You're either a queen or a king. Now, with this brand, I'm really not sure that I'm settled on it because there's some things that I needed to say a little more. Like, this is my king, that's my queen. I need us to walk as Black people in that greatness. You need to walk. I mean, I see it all the time. Black lives matter. All lives do matter. Black lives really matter because of the fact that a whole bunch of things have happened to us. But you need to feel good about you before you go out feeling good about somebody else. You need to pat yourself on the back. You need to encourage yourself. Your role is to be obedient. Be obedient to God's word. Be obedient to your word. Be obedient to your will. Be obedient to what you like and what you want to have in your life. Or if you go into a business, like I'm really not settled with a lot of things that's going on with this, but this is the brand that I want to stamp on going through. I want people to feel good about themselves. I want them to feel good about what they put their hand on. Or what, take the time out to love what you're doing. And then you won't work a day in your life. But if you keep on, you put all these things in corporate America, you do everything for other people, you're the best input, but what are you doing for yourself? What are you doing to promote goodness inside of you? Every morning I wake up, because MS is not at the forefront of my life, it's still a problem. Right. And I wake up some mornings, I can't get up the way I do. And you know what I say? Angela, you got this. You got Chase later today. You got this. But you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're gorgeous. These little affirmations I say to myself on a regular basis to get me going and keep me up, because if I don't feel that way, I can't draw on. I live in my place by myself. So I have to encourage myself. Encourage yourself. Love yourself. Put all your weight on things for you. Entrepreneurship, owning your own, feeling good about yourself. That's important. You'll never work another day if you love yourself first. That's it.
Man, this has been an amazing interview. I feel like these type of interviews not only help showcase who you are, but they also let people know where I started and where I get a lot of my ideals from. So again, I want to thank you so much for having this conversation with me and being on the platform. But before we get out of here, I always like to ask, what is your too stubborn to fail moment? What's that moment that you overcame adversity and made it through the other side?
Not ever. I have a problem with giving up. I never want to give up, whatever it is. And sometimes that's a hindrance, and sometimes that's a plus. But I'm never, ever. If you put all your weight and all your energy and all your goals in greatness, if you shoot for the moon, if you fail, you'll be among the stars. You just don't ever give up. Be strong. And this is Mr. 2STUBBORN2FAIL, but I started the 2STUBBORN2FAIL because that's the way it is. Never give up. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on your hopes. And never put all your weight into somebody else and what they think. It's what you think. It's your dream. It's your goal. It's your mission. Do you. But do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Be 2STUBBORN.
We all heard that, folks. This has been another amazing episode. But before we leave, what would you? How can if anybody would like to get in contact with you, what platforms are you most active on?
Well, Facebook now. You can hit me up on Facebook, Angela Perkins. My email address, Angela19632011@gmail.com. And for talk, or if you want shirts, or I have the king, the queen shirts, and we're gonna come in different sizes. But I took a moment and stepped back, so it felt good, and now it feels good. Everything you have to do things that feel good. I'm not doing anything ever again in my life that feels good.
Well, thank you for that. It's been another dope interview on the 2STUBBORN2FAIL podcast. I'm your host, Darren Perkins. We had Angela Perkins, my mom, here today. We had an amazing conversation, and we are tuning out.